Welcome to another episode of OG 55. Today we have an all West Coast edition. It's the Italiano and OG reacting to a Hey Bricky video. What the Asian parks mean for the future of the Disneyland resort. Bricky has a fantastic, yet again, another fantastic video. The Italiano and I are going to react to it, break it down. Up next on Jeezy, Bitty, Easy. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG 55. It's been a long time, but George is back. I think it's been it's been over like 2 weeks since you've been on the channel.
It's been, yeah, because the whole process of it was 11 days. I went from Vegas to Anaheim for Oogie Boogie. But in Vegas, I covered Horror Unleashed and got to, see some of the strip, some of the stuff that I didn't get a chance to see. And then came back out to California for Anaheim for Oogie Boogie, and then it transitioned right into my birthday weekend and the OG 55 meetup, and it was just like nonstop for like 11 days.
But you're back. It's kind of funny. We kind of bookended it beautifully because the first video back is a Bricky video. Your last video was a Bricky video, so we got the Bricky on Bricky action. But George, where can everybody find you on social media, sir?
Absolutely. Well, you can find me right here on Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner. All that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news. Oh, wait a minute. With all that good Bricky news and info. And of course, you can find me on my own YouTube channel, Citrico Central, sister channel to Orange Grove 55.
Okay, so let's go ahead and break it down. George, you about ready to watch this Bricky video?
Yes, absolutely. And actually, I usually watch it to kind of like pregame it, but actually I'm going into this fresh. So I actually didn't get a chance to watch it. So I'm experiencing it with all of you in real time.
Let's do it. Okay, so this is Disneyland's Missing Future Attractions. Hey Bricky, make sure you subscribe to Hey Bricky. I'll be linking his channel down below like I always do. All right, here we go. Let's break it down.
Has been building some of the most impressive attractions in its history, and more of them will be finding their way to California. Some will arrive exactly how they were built overseas. Others show up in disguise, hiding familiar technology under a brand new story. Today, I'm breaking down which international attractions are headed for Disneyland and where they'll go, and why one of them could completely change how we think about the park's future. Bricky here explaining why many of us have wondered why do all the big new attractions go to Asia parks instead of here domestically. Today, that's exactly what I'm going to explain. How Disney has created a loophole to make this very lucrative. First, make sure you subscribe to the channel so we can keep going on these adventures where you know what we do. We study Disneyland's past so we can better predict its future. Let's go. Let's start simple. The easiest way to see how this works is to look at an attraction Disney literally just picked up and moved from one park to another. Shanghai Disneyland opened in 2016. Tron was one of the big headliners. But as years go by, the exclusivity clause expires, and Magic Kingdom builds a near identical copy. Same ride system, same IP, just plopped into Florida. It's pretty simple, right? But behind the scenes has a brilliant stroke.
Okay, so there's even a clause even with the Asia parks, like they Bricky had mentioned, like after the clause was over, then that's when they moved Tron.
I did not know that. I knew Tokyo did because Tokyo is fully owned by the OLC. I did not know that Shanghai had that as well. So that's very interesting. Yeah, interesting stuff.
Of financial creativity. We'll get to that later. But here is where it gets a little more interesting, because that very same year, Shanghai also opened their version of Pirates of the Caribbean, which if you haven't seen it, it's basically a next level boat.
Now that part right there, this part right here, I'm going to mute it while I play it, where the boat comes from on the bottom of the seafloor and then you're on the top. That is such a like surreal effect. That looks so realistic. I hope the new Pandora attraction at DCA has that same thing where you start at the bottom of the, you know, underwater and you go above. I love that. That's my favorite part in this entire attraction.
I have a feeling, and to what Bricky seems like that's what he's getting at, is again like taking the technology of one ride and kind of reskinning it to another like IP in another existing park. So probably as he's going to mention it, yeah, I agree with you. I think for like the Shanghai Pirates, hopefully we get that kind of technology for the Pandora e-ticket coming to DCA, and then possibly, I mean, the rumor mill, you know, that Moana attraction coming to Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World could possibly maybe get this kind of like boat ride technology as well.
Yeah, this would be beautiful for a Moana themed attraction. Absolutely.
A next level boat ride with some insane technology. To quote Insane Clown Posse, magnets. How do those work? But now, as we fast forward to the future at Disney's California Adventure, they're replacing Monsters, Inc. with an Avatar attraction. And all signs point to the same ride system being used. This time, it's not a copy and paste. It's taking the tech, stripping out the pirates, and dropping in Pandora. And that's the other way Disney plays the game. But yet, still on the back end, it has a very sneaky and savvy business agenda hidden in this plan. Those are the two ends of the spectrum: direct imports and tech repurposing. And everything else we're talking about today lives somewhere in between. So you understand this business and design pattern of keeping the tech, but swapping out the IP or intellectual property, you start.
And here's the thing, Disney has done this since really the inception of Disneyland, right? If you look at an attraction like It's a Small World, it has the same ride system as that of Pirates of the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, these are two of the same attractions, just with different set dressing, different music, different set dressing. It's the same attraction, and what a different experience, though. I mean, it's crazy to me that you can take a ride system and change the experience so much based on the set pieces and the music and the vibe, right? Take, for example, the Hollywood Tower Hotel. It was a haunted, decrepit hotel, right? Kind of spooky, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. They took that same building, that same ride system, and they turned it into a fun Guardians of the Galaxy attraction. And it's not even really recognizable as an attraction. I mean, these are two totally different experiences. Indiana Jones Adventure at Disneyland and Dinosaur at Animal Kingdom. Same ride system, even the same layout, very different experiences. So people think that like, oh, Disney's being lazy just because they're using the same ride system. No. This has been going on since the beginning, and you can drastically alter the experience with the window dressing.
Absolutely.
To spot it everywhere in the Disney parks, even in attractions that aren't open yet, but their construction is just around the corner, like a certain boat ride starring a family from the land of the dead. You have to admit, it's kind of funny timing. Disney announces they're building a Coco family boat ride at Disney California just months after opening a Tangled family boat ride at Fantasy Springs. Now, on the surface, these two rides may not seem connected, but when you look closer at how Tangled was built, you can start to see the DNA of Coco embedded inside of the attraction. Tangled uses a newer style of animatronics that doesn't try to make characters look like realistic humans. It makes them feel like they stepped right out of the animated movie. The faces, the movement, even the way the lighting plays across all the different scenes. It's all designed to keep you in that animated world, not to make it feel like it's part of our world. Add in a story that leans heavily on music and recreating key moments from the film, and you've got the blueprint for that kind of emotional, family-friendly experience Coco will be aiming to deliver when it shows up on the other side of those roller coaster tracks somewhere back here. So
for that, like I get Bricky's point, like of how like they can kind of utilize the same formula that they did it, for Tangled over in Tokyo. My only worry with that is because a lot of people have complained. They love the technology of the Tangled ride. They love the audio animatronics, but they say it is very short. And if they literally keep the same blueprint with that with Coco, my fear is that the ride would be a technological marvel, but it would be very short in capacity to kind of, be like that people eater, like that massive, like the boats, that they use for Pirates of the Caribbean, or like the Omni Mover that they use for the Haunted Mansion. But and the reason why that worries me is because the location of where they are placing Coco. And we just had this conversation recently on my channel, Citrico Central, with Drew, the Disney dude. Like if they have like a short amount of space, they can kind of utilize maybe turntables, or even use the technology that they use in Shanghai Pirates to get creative. But if they just stick to the straight narrative of they used for Tangled, I'd be very concerned with that.
Yeah, me too. And here's the thing, that this is why I'm optimistic though. When it comes to Disneyland Resort, Disney has really utilized a lot of creativity to maximize every square inch of land. When you look at what we got with Galaxy's Edge, 14 acres, right, behind Frontierland, when you look at what we got with Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, as massive as that show building is, we didn't really lose anything. We lost some backstage, and we lost a petting zoo and a barbecue place. I mean, really not that bad of a trade-off for what we got, right? The Indiana Jones Adventure, I talked about this on your channel with Drew as well. We talked about it. The Indiana Jones Adventure, that the queue is so dope for that attraction because it has to get you outside that berm. So it really feels like you're traveling deep within the temple, right? But logistically, there was a problem that needed to be solved, right? As Bricky always says. But creatively, it was even better because of that, right? The Haunted Mansion, the whole reason why we have that stretching room is because of the need to get you underground and beyond the berm, under the railroad track. So if Disney gives a shit with DCA like they do Disneyland, which I've been saying for a long time, they usually don't for some reason. I don't know why. I mean, this park sits feet away from Walt's original park. I don't know why there's this kind of willy-nilly, like, oh, it's just DCA, who cares kind of mentality at Disney. But if they actually put a little bit of love into this thing and pretend, and then close their eyes, and if they pretend it's Disneyland for a second, maybe they'll use the same creativity and actually think outside the box with this Coco boat ride. Now, Drew, on your channel, I suggest everyone check out the video on Citrico Central. It should be out, or will be out very soon after this video is up. But Drew was talking about turntables, how the set pieces can be on turntables. He was talking about the boat could be similar to that of Shanghai, where it can turn and go back and go the opposite direction and what have you, to really maximize a smaller footprint. That's the kind of stuff that I really want to see when it comes to Coco. I really don't want to see them give us a short boat ride just in a standard sense. You know what I'm saying? I really want them to think outside this box a little bit, give us a real cool experience, a lengthy experience, and think outside the box to give that experience. Now, Josh Giamaro really pumped this thing up at D23 last year. He was saying this thing is going to be on par, or, of that quality level as a Haunted Mansion or a Pirates. So if that's the case, I'm expecting like a lengthy attraction here, and I'm expecting high quality, Josh. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see, but I don't know.
Even if Coco isn't a one-for-one clone of Tangled, I'd expect it to share some of the same style of storytelling, the same type of immersive set design, and the same emotional arc that builds to those big musical payoff moments. And with Coco planned as an extension of Pixar Pier at DCA, this is one of the clearest examples of Disney taking the lessons learned from overseas and reshaping them in to California's footprint.
Yeah.
And this is the
And actually, at the time when they released more information on Coco, it already kind of is falling, showing the differences aside from Tangled, because they are going to utilize the Pepper's Ghost that they utilize in the Haunted Mansion. We're going to get a massive Pepita animatronic, the giant flying tiger looking cat. So we're already kind of seeing the differences. So that's also a good thing as well with the creativity.
Yeah, and shout out to Drew the Disney Dude for that information. He tweeted that stuff out. He noticed some of this stuff in the Imagineering YouTube channel. I believe there was a new video, and there was stuff on the wall that he was able to kind of glean from that. So big shout out to Drew for that. But yeah, I mean, a giant Pepita animatronic and all that stuff, I think that's really promising. And like I said in your video, George, with Drew, is like, you know, Disney usually has one thing that they usually tout with these big attractions, right? So for the Navi River Journey, it was the Shaman. That was the thing that they touted as like the cool next gen animatronic. You know, when it came to the Little Mermaid attraction at DCA in 2011, it was Ursula. That was the big thing they were kind of touting with that. There's usually one piece that they're really proud of. So I could see that Pepita animatronic being that one piece for Coco that they're really going to push in all the marketing material. Like, yeah, you really have to ride this and check out that giant tiger, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Plan for Coco. Friends, it's not the only attraction that's going to get the same treatment. Because one of Tangled's next door neighbors at Fantasy Springs, Disney has plans to take the same tech underneath and is about to fuel one of the most intense e-tickets Disney California Adventure has ever seen. At least that's what Disney hopes to accomplish with the construction project that's happening right now. On paper, I'll be the first one to admit Peter Pan's Neverland Adventure at Fantasy Springs, it looks fine. Watch a POV on YouTube and it's easy to think, yeah, it's a cute ride for the family. Maybe an unneeded twist on the Disneyland opening day classic. But here's the thing, that ride is quietly hiding one of the most advanced attraction systems Disney has built in the last handful of years. A seamless way to combine mixed media entertainment for guests. And if you've actually been on it, I haven't, way different in person, because every single person I've talked to that has rode it told me, dude, you are missing out. It is amazing, which left me dumbfounded because online, it just didn't look that special. But from what I'm hearing, it is absolutely special and could be even better with a couple of high adrenaline tweaks. At D20.
And this is where the fandom, and I love Bricky, you know, this is why I love Bricky, because he sees, and this is also what I talked to Drew about in your video, right? Bricky, along with Drew the Disney Dude, and the two of us obviously as well, we can see things and see the potential in them. Where a lot of the fandom, unfortunately, sees things as very much like apples and apples, and that's it, right? So they're looking at an attraction like the Peter Pan thing at Tokyo Disney Sea, and they're going, oh, well, you know, gee golly, it's going to be a slow thing like that. That's going to suck. But it's not, though. I even said at the beginning of the show, you can take a ride system and drastically alter the experience with the music, the set pieces, and all that stuff. Like Pirates and Small World are the same ride system, like literally a very drastically different experience. You know, Tower of Terror, Mission Breakout, vastly different from each other. So just because they're utilizing the Peter Pan technology or a version of it doesn't mean it's going to be slow, doesn't mean it's going to be like the same, like, you know, impressiveness as that. It's probably going to be even better. When these vehicles, they're going to crank those things up for this particular IP. It's going to have all different set dressing. It's probably going to be on a grander scale in terms of the actual set pieces, because it needs to be. It's Marvel. So it's not going to be the same thing. So when I hear fans complaining like, oh, it's just going to be the Peter Pan thing, it's not. It's not. It's like me saying, I've been on Dinosaur. I don't need to go on Indiana Jones Adventure. Well, no, bullshit. Indiana Jones Adventure is an amazing experience. Dinosaur isn't, but they're the same ride system. You know what I'm saying? So people need to start having an open mind and start seeing the potential in things. Unfortunately, a lot of times the fandom doesn't do that. They just take things literally verbatim and have no imagination. And it's kind of frustrating. And that's why I love Bricky and also our friend Drew, because they do see outside of what's visually in front of us, and they can see beyond that. But what say you, George?
Well, I'll even take it a step further, because you mentioned Dinosaur and Indiana Jones. Pretty soon, Dinosaur is going to go extinct, and we're getting Indiana Jones at Walt Disney World.
Right.
Now, people can say, oh, it's going to be Indiana Jones and Indiana Jones with the same ride layout, with the same ride vehicle. But do you know what? It's still going to be a very different experience, even though you're utilizing the same IP, the same ride vehicle, the same ride layout. They can add into the technology that can give a different sense of movement, a different sense of a good mutual friend of ours says that the Indiana Jones ride vehicles at Disneyland each have their own basically personality.
They do.
They have like a different kind of movement, you know, that like that you can have a different experience without even knowing you are, you know, and it's something that you don't think about it. And you had mentioned about like with the Fandom, and I agree with you. They look at it at a very surface level, like when they say, oh, it's the same ride tech as Peter Pan going into Infinity Defense. Well, yeah, it's the same tech, but you can alter that tech to do anything that you want.
Yes, I mean, look how much more extreme and more intense Mission Breakout is compared to that of Tower of Terror. I mean, the same elevator, literally, it's not even just the same ride system. It's literally the same ride system. It's the same building, the same elevators. And look how much more crazy and more intense Mission Breakout is. So I want fans to realize that when they hem and haw and they bitch and whine about how it's just the Peter Pan ride. It's not going to be just the Peter Pan ride. They're going to turn those vehicles up to 11. Believe me, it's not going to be that slow.
Last year, many of us spotted something that looked very, very familiar at the Avengers display that they had. That was a ride vehicle, which made many of us think that it would be the exact same ride system. But I talked to Walt Disney Imagineering, and they kind of gave me some insight on how different this vehicle is going to be and how different the attraction will work. And let me tell you, everything I heard made me think, oh, wow, this is going to be awesome. So it's the same play we saw with Shanghai's Pirates tech being reskinned for an upcoming Avatar ride. But this time, we're not just switching the IP, we're adding in a different level of action and entertainment. This big upgrade will be in tone from whimsical flying ship to full-on superhero battle, cranked up to Avengers level of intensity, along with real-world props and set pieces that make you feel like you're having a truly multimedia adventure. That part I love. Here we see Disney taking technology that another theme park has already mastered and understanding how they can plus it a little bit more for domestic audiences. Building on top of the base that already exists is a shortcut and affordable way to make something that feels brand new, even though it's built on the chassis of something that already exists. And here's why this matters, because this isn't a speculative one day it will happen. This is already happening. Dirt is being moved, and we have the very first international attraction showing up at Disneyland right behind me, which means out of all the tech we're talking about today, this will probably be the very first Asian attraction that will officially touch down on the Disneyland Resort soil. The future is here. But sometimes it's not about repurposing tech, it's about knowing when to retire an aging classic and replace it with something that's both familiar, but also completely new. And for that, we've got to talk about Tomorrowland's one untouchable and why it might actually get touched. Tomorrowland has a lot of problems, and I talk about it all the time. The layout is simply broken. The people mover tracks are dead weight, going through every building in the land, and most of the land feels stuck in a future from 50 years ago. But there's one thing they got right, and that's Space Mountain. It's been one of Disneyland's most popular attractions for decades. The problem is,
ironically, like all the now look, I want to make it very clear. I'm not crapping on Walt Disney, okay? I want to make that very clear. But it is kind of ironic that a lot of the biggest problems with Tomorrowland are Walt Disney stuff. Yeah. Like Space, we didn't get Space Mountain I think until like 1977, I believe. Yeah. So it's kind of ironic to me, like the people mover and all that stuff, like that's the main problem, the subs. And the track going over the subs, that the problems are the Walt stuff.
Yeah.
And the thing that's actually been successful is the thing that came after Walt, nearly a decade later. Look, again, I'm not crapping on Walt Disney. Walt Disney's a freaking giant. You know what I'm saying? He's a legend. I mean, 1 in a billion in terms of human beings go, right? But I just found that kind of ironic. So.
But that's what happens when you have things that just sit stagnant for how many decades? If Walt was here, those were his ideas at that moment in that time. But moving decades later, he probably would have had the whole Tomorrowland bulldozed by now.
Oh, several times over. He probably would have bulldozed Sleeping Beauty Castle several times over and built a new castle over and over again. Walt was very much a forward thinker, and he probably would have wanted something more grand or whatever, you know. So you're absolutely right. I think Walt loved the past and loved the nostalgia, but he wasn't handcuffed to it. And unfortunately, a lot of the fans are. They're very much mentally married and handcuffed to the past, you know, and it's kind of anti-Disney to be that way, you know. I mean, it's good to respect the past, but you don't want to be so beholden to it that you're afraid to touch anything, you know.
Exactly, and they kind of speak for Walt, where if they really knew who Walt was and what he was about, if you really pay attention, he was always looking forward to expanding and changing and upgrading. He even says it in his own words in an interview, and they utilize that in the Walt Disney A Magical Life show in the Opera House with the audio animatronic. Right. When you watch the 18-minute video, he says there are things that I could do with Disneyland that I can't do with a movie. Once a movie is done, it's done. You know, the trees will grow every year. You know, it'll get more beautiful. I could change things. I could expand things. Those were his words. And it's like, and people are like hell bent on saying, well, this isn't what Walt would want. Well, I think actually he kind of would have.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Well said, George. Well said.
Our version is starting to show its age. And when you start looking at all the changes that need to happen to fix Tomorrowland, it's hard to imagine they can just begin patching it up. So more than likely, it's going to need to be a full teardown. Take it all down to the dirt and then rebuild, which could open the door to reshape the overall size of Tomorrowland and possibly even insert a third land into this massive footprint. The Zootopia area alone is big enough to be Toontown or all of Main Street, USA. That's how much extra space Tomorrowland has. And this is where I believe it gets exciting, because over in Hong Kong, Disney is building a brand new Space Mountain. Sleeker, more futuristic, and perfectly suited to anchor a modern Tomorrowland.
There was some, I think it was John Hench, and correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I believe it was John Hench who did some early concept art for Space Mountain back in the day. And I believe this new Japanese version of Space Mountain is very reminiscent of that early John Hench concept art for Space Mountain. So it's something that is very much an homage to the past, but very much has its foot in the future. And I love that. I would be completely fine. And this is where we talk about the fandom. I know we're talking a lot about the fandom here, but it's really relevant to this conversation that we're having. The fandom might have a huge problem with them bulldozing the current Space Mountain. But if we get this, where it's still Space Mountain, y'all, it's still Space Mountain, but it's a new version. It's a next-gen version of it. And you can build kind of like a new courtyard in the front of it and really bring that back end of Tomorrowland into the future. I'm for it, man. Who says we got to keep the same building? Like this looks like Space Mountain, but new. Like I have no problem with this building, with this design. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, George.
Yeah, well, this is what I don't understand. Well, first off, I think you're right. I think it was John Hench, because I remember seeing the concept art, and I remember it had like those layered swirls.
Yes.
Around and the spires at the top. I do remember that. So I think it is John Hench. But yeah, comment down below and correct us if we're wrong. But that's the frustrating thing, that Tokyo Disney makes this decision and fans say, oh, well, see, Tokyo Disney's, up to date with everything. Look, they're getting a whole new Tomorrowland. But then if Imagineering touches Tomorrowland in Disneyland or Magic Kingdom and does this, people are saying, oh my gosh, they're getting rid of Space Mountain. They're getting rid of the look of the Disneyland and Magic Kingdom. Well, what do you want? Like, you're praising Tokyo for doing it, but then you would come down on Imagineering for doing it in the domestic parks. And I feel like maybe in a way, that's why sometimes we do wait for the domestic parks to get things last. Yes, there are things internally, like with budgeting, and they have to deal with like the board and the executives and all that stuff. But there may be times where it's like Disney is like trying to listen to the fans, and it's like, okay, is this going to be a major backlash? Should we do it? And honestly, I say Imagineering should listen to the fans to an extent, but then they should still go and do their own thing.
Yeah, if I have any advice for Disney, don't get handcuffed to the fandom, because you're chasing your tail at that point. A lot of times the fans don't even know what they want. I got to be honest. I'm a fan, and I'm telling you right now, I'm in this community, like neck deep in this community. And I'm telling you right now, a lot of times the fans have no idea what they want, or the fans are so close-minded that they see an idea and they immediately dismiss it. Okay, I've told you before, I've been in the community a really long time. When in the lead up to Small World Holiday, I remember the discourse about that attraction, about that overlay, the holiday overlay, about how it's going to look tacky to put Christmas lights on Small World, and it's going to look like someone's front yard. I remember all the shit talking fans did through AOL dial-up back then about what that thing was going to be, and it turned out to be one of the most
major point that everyone goes to look at. It's a Small World Holiday.
It's that attraction is never more popular than during the holidays. It is a treasure of an experience, and it was crapped on in the lead up. I remember those days. So a lot of times the fans are very close-minded, and I'm sorry, they are. I mean, I'm a fan, but we have to be self-aware, everybody. We have to be self-aware. The Mission Breakout, I remember when that was announced at Comic-Con. The bitching and moaning over that. Oh my God, they're changing it to Guardians. That's so weird. It's going to suck. Now it's one of the most popular rides at the resort, and fans would literally be mad if they turned it back. It's so beloved.
Well, and making another full circle to It's a Small World, people were up in arms when they were going to incorporate the Disney characters as in doll form. And people are like, oh, you're getting rid of like the nostalgia of It's a Small World. And Kim Irvine was getting, name called and all that. And now look, they incorporated them. People are fine. We're all fine. They just added Coco, Miguel. And no one said a word. They're like, okay, cool. We got another doll added to It's a Small World.
Yeah. No, I know. It's a lot of outrage, and then it's forgotten. It's crazy.
So if Disney does hit the reset button on this land, don't be surprised if the King of Tomorrowland returns in upgraded form, borrowing heavily from Hong Kong's new design. It keeps the favorite status, but finally gives Tomorrowland a visual and technological upgrade.
It's actually Tokyo's new design, but
it's Tokyo, yes.
Yeah, Tokyo, but that's okay.
Actually matches the future.
I'm actually wondering though if Bricky confused Shanghai with Tokyo in the beginning with the claws, because I think he might have. Respectfully, Bricky, I think he might have switched it, because I think it's only OLC that has that clause. I don't think Shanghai does.
Yeah,
I don't think Shanghai has that clause, but I could be wrong. But there might be a little bit of a mix-up there.
And Bricky even admitted himself on one of his videos that he gets like a lot of the like the Asian parks kind of mixed up.
Yeah, honest mistake.
Post to represent. And if Disney is willing to go that far to rebuild Tomorrowland, you can bet they're thinking just as strategically about how to place their next big lands, which is why my prediction might surprise most of you. Now, if we're talking about rides that seem absolutely destined to show up to Disneyland, I would have to say a version of Arendelle and Frozen has got to be at the top of the list. And even though we have seen Frozen replicated at several international parks, I believe Disneyland is destined to get the most amazing version yet. I'm talking about the one that was recently built for Fantasy Springs, which of course is in Tokyo at Disney Sea, revered as the world's greatest theme park. And one day soon, I hope to get to go there. This version of Frozen is so over the top of what a dark ride can and should.
And you see that rotating door. I talked about this on Citrico Central with you and Drew. With the space constraints you have for Coco, you could have set pieces that rotate and change as the boat goes through to use a smaller footprint for that boat ride. Similar to what we're seeing here, obviously on a bigger scale for Coco, but you can have set pieces that change and rotate and alter so you don't need a massive layout. You can literally go in a circle and it can be a different scene every single time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and that's what I was talking about on your show, George, was this particular scene in particular where you can have this stuff where it rotates. You can have the boat go in another direction or do whatever, where you can really utilize the footprint. That's why I'm really hoping Disney gets creative with Coco and they don't get lazy. It's DCA. Yes, Disney, I get it. You don't care as much, but it sits just feet away from Disneyland. Let's put a little love into it. It sits right there, just feet away from Walt's original park.
Mm-hmm.
Should be, with all kinds of new storytelling gimmicks. It just shows the evolution of this ride system can just get better and better as new technologies are incorporated into the classic Disney dark ride. Now, probably the most popular fan theory is that Frozen would sit right between Fantasyland and Tomorrowland, exactly where I'm standing at right now, taking over.
Okay, so now I have seen this video, and he mentions this spot, and he also mentions across the way, I think in the Stitch parking lot, right? And we're gonna obviously play the video, let him talk it, kind of make the case for both. Personally, though, and this is why I prefer this particular spot, the motorboat cruise area. Obviously, you need to address the people mover track and the monorail beam, but they can definitely do that. But I prefer it over here. Number one, it blends perfectly into Fantasyland. Frozen is a Fantasyland IP, 1000%. And you have, and Bricky brings it up as well, you have the Matterhorn looming over, which only adds to the atmosphere and the vibe of Arendelle, the snow-capped Matterhorn. Now, my issue with building Arendelle across the way in the Disneyland Forward stuff, in the Disneyland Forward parking lots and all that, is when you build a Fantasyland IP, very much a Fantasyland IP, over across the way, I feel like there's a little bit of a redundancy there. I feel like it's almost like another Fantasyland across the park. And I don't like that. I think Frozen needs to be in Fantasyland. I don't mind it being its own subland within Fantasyland. That's fine. But to take a princess film that's so Fantasyland and have its own land across the way, it's like having two Fantasylands. I mean, even the architecture and stuff looks like Fantasyland. It just seems way too redundant to me. Go ahead, George.
Right. So you're okay with, even if it's like its own land and they actually call it Arendelle, like the world of Frozen, but have it adjacent within the perimeter of Fantasyland.
Yeah, it's part of Fantasyland, but it's like its own little sub area neighborhood of Arendelle. That's fine. But to have it all the way at the complete end of the other side of the park, it just feels like another Fantasyland. And I feel like we have two Fantasylands.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really like that. I mean, I know there's more space over there, but I think it works better here. And you have the Matterhorn, which adds to the vibe. You know what I'm saying? But what do you think?
Oh, no, I completely agree. I feel like if they weren't going to do Pandora in that area, which you had mentioned that years ago, which that's not the route, unfortunately, they're taking.
I'm surprised too, because I supposedly have all this special access. I mean, people say it all the time. So
what happened there? So but I could definitely see Arendelle. I think if Pandora obviously isn't going there, Arendelle I think would be the perfect spot, because you have that connection to Fantasyland, you have it adjacent to the Matterhorn, and it would just work. And then also too, on the back, that we're getting 2 more sequels for Frozen, and it's going to be a 2-parter. Right. I mean, what a better way to kind of promote said movies with, again, another whole Frozen area, because all the other parks have it. Why not bring it to Disneyland? Bring it to a domestic park.
Absolutely. It's perfect.
The old motorboat cruise area. And as I've explained before, it's easier for Disney to let the water stay here than to remove it. But there's also another storytelling detail in this part of Disneyland that has many fans thinking this is the spot. Because if you put Arendelle next to the Matterhorn, boom, you've got yourself a little Norwegian neighborhood. And
Perfect.
as I broke down in my Disneyland's Missing River video, keeping this body of water here means you could run a dark water system right under the bridge for a moat. It's an easy win. But here's where I break away from this fan theory. Let me explain. I took the actual layout for the Arendelle area, and let me tell you, it fits perfectly in the shape of the parking lot directly behind me. And think about this. If Disney is going to bring Frozen to Disneyland, why not make it an extension of the park right next to the Fantasy Tower of the Disneyland Hotel?
And see, this is the part of this location that I actually love. I agree with Bricky on this part where it's like, yeah, it's a perfect backdrop and I guess connection piece to the Fantasy Tower of the hotel. I agree with him on that. Yeah, again though, and you're working with a blank canvas with the parking lot. I love all that, but it's just I can't shake it. It just feels too much like another Fantasyland, and it feels very redundant to have it over here, you know? But I love the idea in terms of it being next to the Fantasy Tower. So there are definitely pros and cons. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like kind of pick and choose, you know, your thing. I mean, the fact that it does fit like a glove, but you know, there possibly could be other things that could also fit like a glove over there as well. So,
well, and that's assuming we're even going to get the same version, because you, like you said, there's multiple sequels coming out. We might not even get this version that fits perfectly. We might get something based on another movie.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, so I mean, it can kind of go either way, but I do agree with Bricky. I do feel like at some point or another, Frozen is coming to Disneyland.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Imagine the marketing for hotel guests getting early entry or after hours access to Arendelle. Suddenly, the price of that already expensive hotel room just went to Frozen expensive. Because guests could exit Disneyland from the back of the bayou, travel under or over Disneyland Drive, and pop out on the other side to the kingdom of Arendelle. And for the critics of Disneyland doesn't need two Fantasylands, if you've seen Arendelle, it doesn't feel like Fantasyland. It feels like something completely different. Sure, it has influence, but it's at a scale and a level that feels more like reality and less like the fantasy that we find in Fantasyland.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. Touche, you know, touche. I mean, it does seem to be a lot more authentic, and it also does seem to be bigger in scale, and it's more grandiose. So, I mean, look, you know, I'm an open-minded guy. I mean, if that's what they do and it works, cool. You know what I'm saying? I mean, initially I was a little bit hesitant about Batuu going behind Frontierland, because when I first heard about a Star Wars land going into Disneyland, I was thinking more like the Star Tours motif style, right? The Star Tours aesthetic. But they went with a much more natural, kind of organic planet vibe, which then ended up working better in the spot that it was in, right? I was thinking more Tomorrowland, but it really wasn't. It was more Galactic Frontierland, you know? So with this thing, it could be where it's more realism, it's more grand, and maybe that's enough to separate it. I don't know. Is that enough for you, George, or do you feel like it's Fantasyland 2.0 still?
I think for me, I'd be fine with either way, but I mean, if I had to pick and choose, I feel like I would still prefer it where you would prefer it. It just, again, it still just feels it just feels more organic that way to have it near Fantasyland. Even if it's not part of Fantasyland, have it near. Plus, Frozen would be the perfect IP to assist with the waterway problem, because as Bricky had mentioned in several other videos, they can't fully get rid of the water area of the motorboat cruise area because it affects other aspects of the water around the castle, and so on and so forth. So at least with Arendelle, you can put in a new land, a new attraction, and still have that waterway to not cause any issues.
Right. And you might have to dip into the submarine lagoon, which I'd be fine with. And you wouldn't lose any of the aesthetics, because obviously Arendelle is a gorgeous land. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of the critics about, you know, when you talk about removing the submarine attraction, a lot of it isn't so much about the ride. It's about losing the aesthetics of the water. But with Arendelle, if it takes over subs and motorboat, you're not losing any aesthetics. Like it has aesthetics. You're good on that. You know what I'm saying? And you have plenty of water. So
I think they're pretty different vibes. But best of all, the placement could block views of the Disneyland Hotel and Pixar Pals parking garage to keep the magic intact. When you see how perfectly fits in this footprint, it's hard not to wonder if back when Disney was designing, they were secretly designing it for Anaheim just years down the road. So if I'm predicting that Frozen will move out of this prime Fantasyland adjacent space, that means I'm leaving the door wide open for something else, something I feel like it was born to be a part of Fantasyland. For me, there is a clear winner because Enchanted Tale of Beauty and the Beast is already one of the most beloved international attractions Disney has ever built. I have never heard one person that has rode this attraction say a negative thing about it. And when I did a POV watch along at home on a live stream back during the pandemic, it literally brought me to tears. And that's sitting at home watching it from thousands of miles away. The scale, animatronics, the music, it's pure Disney Fantasyland storytelling turned up to 11. And thematically, it feels like it could have been a part of Fantasyland from day one. It matches the time period, the European village aesthetic, the fairy tale magic. It just clicks with everything all around it. So placing it here would not only expand Fantasyland, but also bring life to a corner of the park that's basically just coasting on nostalgia right now. Keeping the water in this space to create distance.
Now, you had asked me, okay, what would I prefer for Frozen? Either, over in the Lilo and Stitch parking lot or in the spaghetti bowl, as you call it. Now, if I had to pick and choose between these two, Beauty and the Beast all the way. If Imagineering came to me and said it's either one or the other, would you rather see Beauty and the Beast or Frozen? I'm going Beauty and the Beast.
Oh yeah, I mean this attraction is way better from what I've seen than I mean the Frozen Dark Ride in Fantasy Springs looks amazing. It really, really does. But this is the next level. I'm a huge Beauty and the Beast guy. I mean, I've said it many times. I make no bones about it. It's my favorite Disney animated movie. It surpasses a lot of even the Walt Disney era stuff. It does. I'm sorry, it just does. It's an incredible feat of Disney animation, and it should be represented, at Disneyland. I mean, come on, the fact that all we have is the Red Rose Tavern representing this amazing movie is a sin, an absolute sin. So
now let me ask you this.
Sure.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Now, even though you said you're still open-minded to if they were to put Frozen over in the Lilo Stitch parking lot, would you be more for it if they said we're putting Frozen in the Lilo and Stitch parking lot to put Beauty and the Beast?
I guess. I just think that there's a lot of other options. We also have that ugly vinyl tent theater in Fantasyland that you can get rid of. You can build something there. There's a lot of room there that you can work with. I think that personally, I think Frozen and Beauty and the Beast are Fantasyland IPs. I'm open to seeing Bricky's point of view on it. I'm not closed-minded. If it works in the Lilo parking lot and it doesn't seem disjointed, I'm open with that. But if it was up to OG, if OG was running experiences, both of these attractions would have to be in Fantasyland. I just feel like these are so Fantasyland. These are such Fantasyland IPs. I just feel there is a redundancy. I get what he's saying with Frozen. It does look like it has that realism. But it's also, but here's the thing, Matterhorn has that realism too. So, having it next to Matterhorn really works. You know what I'm saying? Even a lot of the aesthetics with the wood carvings and stuff match Matterhorn. And, the stuff that you would see in Frozen Land matches the Matterhorn. So I don't know, the case to be made for it to be right there underneath the Matterhorn in that lagoon for me is so strong. And to put it in its own separate area across the park, it feels weird to me, man. I gotta be honest. I respectfully disagree with Bricky on this, but again, open-minded though. You never know.
I would say
between the path.
sorry, really quick. I would have to say for me, if I was part of Imagineering, I would literally bulldoze Tomorrowland, revamp it to what Tokyo's doing, including Space Mountain, get rid of the spaghetti bowl of the monorail track, get rid of Zootopia, get rid of the subs in the motorboat cruise area, but keep the waterway, put in Frozen, and then for the Beauty and the Beast attraction, get rid of the Fantasyland Theater because it's already perched on a hill. So the Beast Castle works perfectly with that.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And I know a lot of entertainment people would get upset with that idea because we're probably going to lose Hyperion eventually. It's we might not lose it with Pandora, but I think eventually that thing is going to go. I really, really do. And then if we lose the Fantasyland Theater, it's like, what about entertainment? You know? Yeah. I just, and this might be an unpopular opinion, which I've had a lot of in this video. But I don't think the stage show, like the traditional Disney stage show, I don't think they're hitting like they used to. Like, I think nighttime entertainment still hits really hard. I think there's a huge demand for fireworks and water shows and Phantasmics and things like that. But the stage shows that they just get up there during the day and it's a bunch of dancing and dancing. I don't know if there's a massive demand for that, like there once was. And I'm okay with losing those two venues, but a lot of people aren't. And that's fair. I respect that. But for me personally, I'm fine with losing both of them if we get these attractions
that we're on today, and a bridge that we would go over to get to Beast Castle would solve a lot of Disneyland's infrastructure problems, as well as create great storytelling. We just push it back far enough so everything fits when Disneyland gets its second castle. Yeah, it would probably mean a reroute or even the end of Zootopia and maybe a shorter monorail loop. But with the popularity of this attraction, I think most guests would make peace with those changes pretty quickly. I mean, Beauty and the Beast has one scene alone that is possibly Disney's greatest magic trick. For that to find its way to Disneyland and probably be improved because it's about a decade later's worth of technology, that would be phenomenal. But there's one part in this area that we cannot let go away. I'm fine to say goodbye to the subs, but I never want to say goodbye to their lagoon. If I had to pick the single best fit for this space, this would be it. Because it's a way to grow Fantasyland without feeling like you're forcing in something that doesn't belong. Beauty and the Beast feels classic Disney, and Fantasyland should always embrace classic Disney. Most of these predictions so far have been about reshaping the space that we already have.
And I do want to say one thing, agree or disagree with Bricky. I love what this man does. Like, honestly, this is the stuff I live for because as a fan, I love getting nerdy about this stuff and speculating. That's the fun part of this whole thing for me. I actually, in a lot of ways, enjoy this even more than being there. I'm not gonna lie. I enjoy the speculation so much, and the fact that we can sit there and nerd out and figure out what's gonna go where and what might be the future, to me is super exciting. And we might, as fans, we might not always agree on stuff, but we're all on the same page when it comes to just loving this shit. You know what I'm saying?
And the thing with Bricky is whether his ideas, suggestions, you know, come to fruition, he gets you pumped up.
Yeah.
He gives you that hope and optimism that these possibilities could really happen. And he gives you this sense of comfort that, oh, even though it may seem like it's impossible, the impossible is possible.
Yes.
And I love that with any kind of content format that Bricky does, for sure.
100%, 150%.
When Disneyland Forward gives us brand new space to play with, that's where we pause and stop thinking about one attraction and start thinking about building an entire city. That's why, friends, I'm looking at the Simba parking lot when Disneyland Forward finally expands DCA over Disneyland Drive. And this brings me to probably what I think is the most ambitious. I'm sorry. Why is my phone ringing? Sorry. Why is my phone calling my phone? What's going on? Hello? Hey, Mark, it's you. What? Well, me. What? I've just been to the Japanese parks, and let me tell you, you're going to love every single attraction you're talking about today. I've already done them? I get to do them? When? Yep. Best trip ever. But one thing that wasn't magical, data service. Until... Wait a minute. Are you getting ready to do a sponsor plug? Have I slipped into an ad? Absolutely. And you'll thank me for it. Today's paid partnership is with UBG. That's UBG. It's an app that gives you eSIM data plans and over 200 destinations. No SIM swapping, no sketchy public Wi-Fi, and no surprise roaming bills. I just downloaded it before I left, activated it, and the plan kicked in the second I landed. It was so easy and convenient. All right. That sounds very, very useful. You got a code for me and all my friends? Yup, you know it. The promo code is Bricky. And compared to our carrier's roaming charges, we saved around 90%. Nice. But check this out. Even if you run out of data mid-trip, you can recharge it with... All right, hold on one second. If Bricky's gonna do it, so am I. CTMAPPAREL.co.com. This is actually a friend of the channel, Jared, Capture the Magic. And he reached out to me. He's like, hey, I want to give the OG55 listeners a little bit of a deal. So 10% if you use promo code OG55. And they have all these amazing nerdy shirts in the theme park space. And even not in the theme park space. They got this cool little Mario shirt, Seymour Duck. I'm looking at you, buddy. Right here. But anyway, check it out, everybody. Promo code OG55. And now back to this. Hey,
before you play this, I just have to say this promo code ad that he inserted in this is genius. Because one, it involves something that he is planning on doing in the future that he hasn't yet, but he incorporates himself, calling himself from the future to the past, saying you're going to Tokyo, but you're going to need this phone service plan, otherwise you're going to be SOL. And the transition of that was like perfect.
Chef's kiss, baby. Chef's kiss.
Wi-Fi. It's so easy. Dial #06# on your phone. If you see an EID number, that means your phone is eSIM compatible. Nice.
And this is another thing I love about Bricky is you and I understand what pound means, but like the newer generation, they're going to say, what's pound? He's showing us a hashtag sign.
Oh, that's true. Absolutely.
Promo code Bricky for 10% off. Links in the description box below. You got any other news for me? Did the Bills finally win the Super Bowl? Yeah, you already know the answer to that. Oh, that you can't tell me. Nice. All right. Thanks, Future Mark. I love you. Love you. Bye. All right. Bye. Be safe. That was weird. This is one of the most ambitious predictions we have today. Zootopia feels like it should already be in Disney California Adventure. It's got a design aesthetic that fits perfectly and is one of Disney's most popular modern IPs. So why didn't they drop it into the Hollywood backlot instead of Avatar? I think the idea might be that they know how good Zootopia could be, and possibly they're waiting for something much, much bigger. Because if you're going to build a blockbuster land here, it needs to have the scale that fits the opportunity that lies ahead. And it also needs to have those tall sightlines to make some things disappear. Out of many of the things I've seen internationally, Zootopia feels like it has the right balance to make whatever comes next feel truly special. Shanghai's version is already a massive success, but I wouldn't expect Anaheim to get a one-to-one copy. Instead, think of Shanghai as the proof of concept for what could be a part of the Disneyland Forward expansion of California Adventure. Here, I'd imagine something even larger, a full metropolis that delivers Zootopia's scale and energy while also serving a practical purpose, hiding the Pixar Place Hotel. It's not going to be easy, but it can be done. Because whatever gets built here will need tall sight lines to make the hotel disappear from the guest point of view, and a towering animated skyline of Zootopia is the perfect thematic curtain. It's a long-term play, maybe definitely the furthest out on the list. So when you stop and think about the scale of what Zootopia could,
and actually it's really not that far-fetched, and it may not be as far off as Bricky is predicting. It actually may be kind of closer in the second half of the 10-year plan, because Zootopia might be the first project that goes into the Simba lot for this purpose of hiding the Pixar Place Hotel. Plus, as he had said, that it would be a much bigger scope. We're about to get Zootopia 2.
Right.
The land in Shanghai only depicts what was shown in the first film. So if they're going to add new locations, new characters, new scenes, new backdrops, they can add the city, the metropolis of Zootopia, plus whatever else they have added into the sequel.
Oh, 100%. And I would agree with Bricky on this too, where this is a perfect IP for DCA. It's that right amount of hip and edgy that DCA freaking loves. You know what I'm saying? This is the property, and it has to go into DCA. It absolutely has to go into this park.
I would love that at nighttime they turn the Zootopia land sort of like what they did with Electronica, where you have all the lights and you have like the music blasting and you have like an animal DJ and all that stuff. Like I hope that's what they would do with it, because again, you're right, that would fit in the realm of DCA.
It would, 100%.
B, it makes sense why they didn't cram it into the Hollywood backlot and instead gave it time and hopefully space.
Speaking of the Hollywood backlot, PhilharMagic is going under the refurb very soon.
I saw that.
So it's staying, because remember, Pandora that construction breaks ground or starts early 2026. They're not gonna spend money on PhilharMagic right now. I mean, look, we're already into September basically. We're only a few months out before the new year. They're not going to spend money to put new lighting and new stuff into PhilharMagic if it was going to go away. That is going to stay. So, I mean, I don't understand how they're going to do this fucking Pandora thing. I really don't. With that staying, you're going to turn the corner, and you're from PhilharMagic, you're going to turn the corner and be in Pandora. That's so weird, bro.
Let me ask you this, because we were there recently, but I was in DCA and I was kind of like scoping it out, looking in the Hollywood like backlot area where Monsters Inc. is, and where like the monorail track is. Now, again, I don't know, because they were saying that they were going to incorporate the bus load unload area into Pandora. Could it possibly be, and this is kind of going back to even what Bricky was suggesting, but I don't know if it was in the same placement, could they start Avatar after the monorail? Could the monorail be like the divider to the transition when you really fully get into Pandora, and the space that's in the Hollywood backlot now is subtleties to get into the land itself?
That's possible. The only reason that I don't think that is the case is because this thing is going to be a massive show building. So I don't even think that the bulk of the land is going to be the monsters and all that stuff in front of the monorail track. I think the bulk of the land will be there, the body of water, all that stuff. The show building is probably going to be the bus load area. Because if you have the land starting after the monorail, we're going to put the giant show building.
That's true. And then I just realized too that the concept art, when it shows like the Eastern Gateway, when you see Pandora's ass, it's not all the way
right. Yeah. It's the show building. Yeah. So I think it's going to be really basically like PhilharMagic Pandora. And how that's going to work, I don't know. I really don't. Imagineers are very clever people, very, very bright. I mean, look, we talked about Zooever. What's it called? Zoogether.
Zoogether.
Yeah. Zoogether or whatever the show is in Animal Kingdom, and going in the Tree of Life, where Drew was saying it's a live stream. So that kind of gets around, it kind of creatively skirts around the idea that you're in a tree. Like you're going in a tree, yes, but you're watching Zootopia on a live stream. So it gives you permission to have the cop cars and all that stuff in the tree because it's just a live stream. It's literally, it's supposed to be a screen. So it makes sense in that context to have all that stuff going on where, so, you know, with Pandora, there might be some creative workarounds that really make this whole thing kind of work in the space that it's in. We'll see, you know, and James Cameron is involved, you know, so I'm going to give him a chance to kind of explain themselves and kind of see how it works out. But yeah, I'm confused too, bro. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do it.
To breathe. I guess all of this gets to the real question here. Why does it seem like this pattern is becoming so common? Let's break down why so many of our future rides that are designed here in California first show up overseas. Why does this keep happening? This is my theory, and I feel like it's pretty sound once you allow me to break it down. Rhymed. When a park like Shanghai Disneyland or Tokyo Disney Sea hires Disney to create a new major attraction, Disney gets paid for that design work. And that is huge because historically, the most expensive part of a new ride wasn't the construction, it was the designing it.
Yes.
Years of research and development, prototyping, testing, that's the part that can cost hundreds of millions of dollars over a very long period. Nailed it. Not all of these ideas will make it past months or years of planning and design. So millions of dollars are spent, lots of time is spent before a single guest ever gets to ride a new attraction. Out of every 50 ideas Imagineering throws at the wall, maybe one of those will make it to a Disney park. But now, this level of experimentation that used to just be a hard cost, Disney is getting paid to do that work. And friends, this is where this plan gets really smart. Most of these contracts have an exclusivity period, which means Disney can't build that attraction in another theme park for a set amount of time, giving the home theme park an exclusive attraction that will hopefully bring guests locally and internationally to experience it. But once this window closes, they've already recouped tons of research and development costs. They've already made a profit, and they already have, this is the important part, real world data on its popularity, how it works, how it runs, how to make it more efficient, and how to build it more affordably the second time around. So with experimenting with international companies' money, Disney has the availability to build guaranteed hits in their domestic park cheaper than they've ever been able to do it before. That's also where the endless money pit known as Dubai is going to step into this equation. You see, going back to our examples at the very beginning, knowing that Tron was a very popular ride made it a no-brainer to do it at Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom. And when you're going to put Avatar at Disneyland, you need a high-capacity, dependable attraction. Why not use the brand new Pirates of the Caribbean from Shanghai technology to tell that story in a proven way that will meet all of your operational requirements? I mean, it is huge to have a crystal ball to know exactly how something's going to work before you put $1 into it out of your own pocket.
Oh, yeah.
So every time we see an incredible headlining attraction open in an international park, we should be thinking a couple of thoughts. How long will this be exclusive to that park? And will Disney build it exactly as is, or will they reskin it to?
And that's why the Abu Dhabi park is super exciting, right? Because the Morel, I think it's Morel, the group that's building it.
Yeah.
They are going to have literally a bottomless pit of money to do this thing. And there is no, for that particular property, there's no clause. Okay. There's no clause. We can clone those things immediately. We can clone those bad boys. So there's a very, very good chance that a lot of these Abu Dhabi attractions and even lands come here stateside. Because like Bricky was saying, and he's absolutely correct, the R&D is the most expensive part. And once that R&D is done, you can bring those bad boys over here. And hopefully a lot of them come to DCA because DCA needs it more than Disneyland. Go ahead.
And that R&D is going to be used on Dubai money, not Disney money.
Right. I forgot the name of the company that's building it, but it starts with an M. But yes, yeah, it's their money. It's not Disney's money, and they have a ton of money to spend. So yeah,
and then after they get the R&D, yeah, they could just make the replicas and move it over to the domestic parks, which I do agree with you with DCA, and that could be why Disney is taking their time with putting new things in, where a lot of people are saying, okay, they got Disneyland Forward, they got the green light, it's granted. Why aren't they putting this in and this in and this in? Well, if they fill it all the way up the whole time, there's no room to play for the future.
Yes, exactly. I said this on Citrico Central with Drew too tonight. You want to space out your investments. You don't want to blow your entire load in one big investment. Like if they used all the Disneyland Forward land in one summer, you don't have anything else to sustain you for the years and years to come. You want to go slow. It took blood, sweat, and tears getting this extra land. Mm-hmm. Why would you want to utilize it and build all at once? You want to have as much growth over a long period of time, not just one summer. You know what I'm saying? So when they say Disneyland Forward is a 40-year plan, that's exciting. I know a lot of fans hem and haw. Oh no, it's 40 years because we live in this culture of like instant gratification, but it's good for Disneyland Resort that it's a 40-year plan, that we have 40 years of land to work with. You want that. And you don't want to use it all at once. You know what I'm saying?
A different intellectual property that they feel is best for domestic audiences. And I believe this is going to usher in a golden age of the Disney theme parks where they can build bigger attractions faster because it's way less expensive than what it once was to take a gamble on what people might like. So very soon we will know how some of these attractions start to take shape. And the best way to understand this plan is to watch this video right here where I break down the opening stages of Disneyland Forward that will change the entire footprint and future of the Disneyland Resort.
There he is. The man, the myth, the legend. Hey, Bricky. Make sure you subscribe to Hey Bricky. Make sure you also subscribe to his Bricky vlog. Both channels will be in the description down below. I'll also be linking Capture the Magic's clothing shop down there if you want to use promo code OG55 for 10% off. I'm also going to be including the lovely Mimi Fan, her YouTube channel and her Instagram. She is the lovely gal who did our outro. Her stuff will also be in the description down below. But George, anything else you want to add before we get out of here?
Again, another great video from Bricky. He never fails. He always delivers. I always enjoy looking forward to his videos, his vlogs, especially for the Disneyland Forward series, of how he just dives deep and dissects into everything that you may not think about, but then when he brings it to your attention, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. You know, so and he's also, aside from just being a very good content creator, he is a very dear near friend of ours. So I mean, I greatly appreciate him.
Yeah, no, you're right. He always delivers. You know, Bricky, he may not be pregnant, but he always delivers. You know what I'm saying? Every single time. But yeah, Bricky vlog. Hey Bricky, in the description down below. George the Italiano, where can everybody find you on social media at home?
Absolutely. Well, you can find me right here on Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney Bricky news and info. I caught myself on that one. And of course, you can find me on my own YouTube channel, Citrico Central, sister channel to Orange Grove 55.
There he is, everybody. Comment down below. We would love to hear all your thoughts on everything we discussed today. A lot to chew on. Great video from Hey Bricky. We would love to hear from you. And like I said before, Mimi Fan is going to close us out. Subscribe to her YouTube channel. It's brand new. And her Instagram. She has great content. She's a really funny gal. We love our Mimi Fan. She's awesome. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of OG Video.
Thank you so much for watching OG55. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and become a member today.